Headlines and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed. All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Board's January 16, 2025, a magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck off the coast of Oregon, west of Bandon, shaking parts of the Pacific Northwest but causing no major damage or tsunami. Officials report only minor shaking on shore, but the event is a reminder of the region's vulnerability along the Cascadia zone. In Los Angeles, police handled 3 separate high-speed pursuits in a single day, highlighting the city's ongoing battles with crime and dangerous drivers. Social media users appealed directly to President Trump, asking for federal backup and tougher consequences for repeat offenders behind the wheel. Russian investor Kirill Dmitriev says Europe's biggest mistake wasn't just shutting down nuclear power, but blindly following President Biden's narratives on energy in Russia. He argues that these decisions have weakened Europe's energy security and handed leverage to Moscow and Beijing. Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank published the full statement he was blocked from reading at a Washington state hearing when his time was cut from 3 minutes to 90 seconds. Swank says it proves what happens when you toe the party line. Real law enforcement concerns get silenced. The former father-in-law of Renee Good, the woman shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, says he doesn't blame ICE for her death. Quoting scripture, he pointed to the children of disobedience and said a series of bad choices led to tragedy, not agents doing their jobs. Conservative historian Victor Davis Hanson has revealed he recently underwent lung cancer surgery and faced serious complications, including an arterial bleed. Hanson says he's very lucky doctors caught the problem in time and is now recovering, thanking supporters for prayers and promising to return to writing and broadcasting. Investigative reporter Catherine Herridge says newly obtained military records show Iran's January 2020 missile strike on Al-Assad Air Base didn't just target U.S. troops with explosives, but also exposed them to toxic agents, including radiation. Veterans are now battling cancers and brain injuries, raising fears of a new Agent Orange scandal. 2 Brooklyn women have pleaded guilty in a $68 million Medicaid fraud scheme involving adult daycare centers and a home health company. Prosecutors say they paid kickbacks to beneficiaries, billed for services never provided, and laundered the proceeds, another example of massive waste in government health programs. In what supporters call an emergency intervention, President Trump is reportedly preparing a plan to cap residential electric bills by shifting part of the cost burden onto big tech and large power users. Backers say tech giants drove up demand and should stop offloading those costs onto struggling families. Commentators in Britain are warning of a 2-tier system where conservative voices are barred from entering the UK, while Islamist extremists and hard-left agitators get a pass. Newly surfaced Home Office guidance appears to blur the line between terrorism and counter-cultural conservative views. Online, critics are branding the standoff in Minneapolis the Frey insurrection, accusing Mayor Jacob Frey of standing with radicals against ICE. They say his rhetoric and refusal to cooperate with federal agents helped fuel the street clashes that left 1 woman dead and an officer seriously injured. In Argentina's Patagonia region, authorities say an Israeli tourist has been detained in connection with wildfires in the Los Glaciares National Park. The fires scorched sensitive forest land and have fed a wave of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, even as officials focus on the specific suspects in custody. President Trump says the Gaza 20-point peace plan has officially entered its next phase after developer Steve Witkoff announced progress on the ground. The plan mixes security guarantees, reconstruction, and regional buy-in, and Trump insists it can deliver stability where decades of diplomatic talk have failed. At the White House, Venezuelan opposition leader María Corina Machado presented President Trump with her Nobel Peace Prize medal in thanks for his actions against the Maduro regime. She called it a gesture of respect for his role in backing Venezuela's fight for freedom. The Justice Department and ATF say they've arrested the man caught on video stealing an FBI rifle from a government SUV during the Minneapolis riots. Authorities say the case shows they are still tracking and prosecuting people who turned protests into opportunities for armed crime. Retired General Michael Flynn is calling for a full audit and defunding of NGOs that act as pass-throughs for taxpayer dollars while undermining the Constitution and destabilizing the country. Flynn says following the money will expose groups using U.S. funding to push globalist and anti-American agendas. Former IC Director Tom Homan says he's meeting President Trump about potentially invoking the Insurrection Act in Minnesota if local officials refuse to restore order. Homan argues that when federal officers are attacked and cities are overrun, the president has a duty to act. The Florida Panthers' Stanley Cup win got the postcard treatment at the White House, with social media lighting up over photos of the cup, the team, and President Trump. The visit is being used to showcase normal American life amid a backdrop of political and economic chaos. Reports say elements of the U.S. military are on standby as tensions escalate. From Minnesota street protests to Iranian airspace closures and Venezuela operations. Officials are tight-lipped, but the posture signals Washington is ready to respond quickly if any front spins out of control. Russian analyst Kirill Dmitriev amplified the verse, "Blessed are the peacemakers," from Matthew 5:9, tying it to calls for diplomacy instead of endless proxy wars. He argues that Western leaders talk peace but fuel conflict, while Moscow is open to mutually beneficial cooperation with any serious partner.
At shop.isitwaya.com, everything you buy supports Acun.top, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Acun Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toaster and tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Acun Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wood and pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Acun's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isitwaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Acun.top keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards, January 16, 2026. President Vladimir Putin reiterated that Russia is open to mutually beneficial cooperation with all countries without exception. His comments come as the West doubles down on sanctions, while much of the rest of the world keeps deepening trade and energy ties with Moscow. Canadian and Chinese officials have announced a new strategic partnership, prompting critics to say Ottawa is drifting toward Beijing just as Western alliances are under strain. Commentators warn this fits a bigger pattern of global realignment, away from traditional U.S.-led structures. Donald Trump Jr. boosted criticism of Senator Lindsey Graham's latest trip to Israel, with one ally saying nothing is worse PR than sending the face of endless war to represent America. They argue hawks like Graham damage Israel's image by appearing to script policy from Washington. Grassroots clips out of Minnesota claim to show movie proof that so-called patriots on the other side are actually agitators or plants, fueling debates over information warfare. Commenters say it's one more reminder to scrutinize who is filming, editing, and funding the footage. A widely shared thread breaks down the early days of the FBI and ties it to the 1933 Banking Act, arguing the Bureau and the Fed were intertwined to protect a new centralized financial order. Critics use the history lesson to explain why they don't trust today's federal policing of political dissent. Former Trump advisor Stephen Miller said that for 4 years under Biden, the country was mass invaded and forcibly occupied by illegal aliens. He argues the new administration has flipped the script, using aggressive enforcement to put American citizens back at the center of immigration policy. At the White House, Trump called it a great honor to meet Venezuelan opposition leader María Corina Machado, who has endured years of persecution under Maduro. Their meeting underscores Washington's bet on a post-socialist future for Venezuela. Trump has also announced the creation of the Board of Peace, calling it the most prestigious board ever assembled and promising to name members soon. The move is meant to brand his foreign policy as peace through strength, with allies and critics alike watching to see who gets a seat. ICE is reminding the public of 18 U.S.C. Section 111, which makes it a federal crime to interfere with, impede, or assault an officer. With attacks on ICE spiking in Minnesota, the agency warns that anyone who crosses that line will be arrested and federally charged. In Milwaukee, jurors watched disturbing video of 6 children found locked in a storage unit months ago, as prosecutors played the footage in open court. The case has fueled demands for tougher penalties on child abusers and closer monitoring of at-risk families. The State Department says the Third Circuit Court of Appeals has overturned an activist judge's decision to free pro-Hamas activist Mahmoud Khalil. Officials say the ruling is a win for national security and a rebuke to lower court leniency toward extremists. Women's sports advocate Riley Gaines revealed she wrapped her baby in a bulletproof blanket because of credible threats she received outside the Supreme Court. She says the episode shows how violent the left's backlash has become against anyone who speaks up for female athletes. Russia has stripped a UK intelligence officer, Gareth Samuel Davies, of his accreditation, forcing him to leave the embassy. The move is seen as part of the ongoing spy games between Moscow and Western capitals, with both sides expelling diplomats and accusing each other of subversion. President Trump's Great Healthcare Plan is being promoted as a way to lower costs and send money directly to the people through expanded health accounts and price transparency. Supporters say it finally puts patients, not bureaucrats, in charge of their care and spending. In Britain, documents show that digital ID schemes haven't really been scrapped, despite Prime Minister Starmer's denials. Contracts and internal papers suggest the infrastructure is still being built, raising alarms about a backdoor path to mandatory digital identification. The ACLU is celebrating a legal win, restoring funding it says protects reproductive freedom, including contraception and other services. But critics argue the group is using taxpayer dollars to push an extreme agenda far beyond basic health care. Analyst Jason Besant warns that the IRS is now stepping in because Minnesota's Walz-era laws go soft on welfare fraud. He says federal tax cops are cleaning up messes blue state politicians created by loosening oversight on massive benefit programs. New reports show NGO money floods into blue states at levels that dwarf entire state agency budgets. Critics say these outfits use taxpayer and foreign funds to push ideological agendas, effectively creating a shadow government voters never approved. Former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison is headed to Israel as part of an Ambassadors of Truth tour, even as Gaza casualties remain high. Supporters say he's standing with Israel against terror. Critics say Western leaders ignore Palestinian suffering.
Every voice matters. The power of free speech is more important than ever. Imagine a place where you can share your thoughts freely, explore new ideas, and engage in meaningful conversations anonymously. With online anonymity, you can express yourself without fear of judgment. It's about freedom, creativity, and connection. Join the conversation that matters. Embrace your voice. Celebrate your freedom. Visit 8kun.top today. That's 8kun.top.
Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don'tDeleteMeBro.com.
That's all for now. Stay alert, stay informed, and never hand your thinking over to anyone on a screen, including me. God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. See you soon.